Today is Monday, September 22, 2014, the 265th day of the year. There are 100 days remaining until the end of 2014. The Old Farmer's Almanack says autumnal equinox occurs at 10:29 p.m. today, meaning the first day of fall 2014 is tomorrow. Today is the last day of summer 2014. On this day in 1776, Nathan Hale is hanged for spying during the American Revolution. Nathan Hale is 20, a Yale graduate just after the Revolution begins in 1775 when he joins a militia, the 7th Connecticut Regiment, and is elected first lieutenant. In September 1775, General George Washington wants to know where and when the British will invade Manhattan. Washington needs a spy to slip behind enemy lines and snoop around. Hale is the only volunteer. During the Battle of Long Island on August 27, 1776, British forces prevail, driving Washington and his Continental Army out of the city across New Jersey into Pennsylvania. Hale is trapped behind enemy lines in Queens, passing for a loyalist, still slipping intelligence to General Washington. One story, possibly completely made up, goes in a tavern Major Robert Rogers of the Queen's York Rangers, who has made a reputation during the French and Indian War 20 years earlier when the Abenakis called him Wobo Maganda, or White Devil, makes young Hale believe that he's a patriot. Hale betrays himself to Rogers and is immediately arrested. Possible, but not terrifically likely. Rogers is a hero to a lot of people. Spencer Tracy plays him in a popular movie, Northwest Passage, MGM, 1940. But by the time of the Revolution, he's a has-been, a reactionary looking to make a comeback, trying to maintain his relevance in a changing world. Another account has Hale's loyalist cousin, Samuel Hale, reveal young Nathan's true purpose to the British authorities. In this telling, it's the cousin who drops the dime. More likely, you know how families are. In those days, they hang spies. For propaganda purposes, the quicker the better. Nowadays, they let spies take refuge in Russia or hide out for years on end in the Ecuadorian embassy. The Austrian-American filmmaker Joseph von Sternberg describes reality as being made of what he calls particles of illusion. You know, if enough people share the same delusion, that's what pretty soon becomes accepted truth. Just before Nathan Hale, 21, is hung, he famously says, "I regret that I have but one life to give for my country." Neat and inspiring. But did he really say that? The handing down to posterity of this famous quote begins with a British officer, John Montresor, who witnesses the hanging. Soon after Hale's execution, Montresor speaks with an American officer, William Hull, and it's Hull who relays to others Hale's last words. Because this Hull guy is not an eyewitness to the execution, doubts persist as to the accuracy of his account. It's possible that Hale, the recent Yalie facing his mortality, quotes from English dramatist Joseph Addison's then popular play Cato, saying, "How beautiful is death when earned by virtue. Who would not be that youth? What pity it is that we can die but once to serve our country." Same idea, see? A second British officer, Frederick Mackenzie, also a witness, kept a diary in which he wrote, "He behaved with great composure and resolution, saying he thought it's the duty of every good officer to obey any order given to him by his commander-in-chief, and desired the spectators to be at all times prepared to meet death in whatever shape it might appear." Hale most likely speaks more than his famous epigrammatic farewell. 5 months after his death, a local newspaper, the Essex Journal, publishes a story about Hale's death and says, "At the gallows, Hale made a sensible and spirited speech. Among other things, told them they were shedding the blood of the innocent, and that if he had 10,000 lives, he would lay them all down, as he called it, in defense of his injured, bleeding country." On this day in 1975, Sara Jane Moore tries to assassinate U.S. President Gerald Ford, but is foiled by a decorated veteran. Moore is sentenced to life in prison for trying to shoot Ford, and she serves a good 32 years when, in 2007, 7 years ago, she gets parole. She's 84 now. Sara Jane Moore and Manson girl Lynette Squeaky Fromm, who just 17 days before in Sacramento pulls the same stunt, are the only women accused of trying to assassinate the president. Well, if you don't count Mary Surratt, who's tried and hanged as a co-conspirator in the Abraham Lincoln assassination. Okay, so 3 women accused of trying to assassinate the president. Thanks, Wikipedia. Who writes this stuff? Earlier in the 1970s, after Patty Hearst is kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army, her father, newspaper publisher Randolph Hearst, starts a charitable organization called People in Need, which distributes free food to hungry people in accordance with an SLA demand. Sara Jane Moore, obsessed with Patty Hearst because who isn't? Foxy college co-ed posing for a photo with a machine gun, gets hired as a bookkeeper for People in Need. Moore, not Patty Hearst, try to keep up. And she's an FBI informant at the time she tries to kill Ford. In fact, earlier that year, 1975, the Secret Service investigates and clears her of suspicion, deciding specifically she poses no danger to the president. The day before she tries to shoot Ford, local police pick her up on an illegal handgun charge and confiscate her .44 caliber revolver along with 113 rounds of ammunition. Plenty enough ammo to do the job. On this day in 1975, 17 days after Squeaky Fromm tries to kill Ford in Sacramento on September 5, 1975, Sara Jane Moore is standing in a crowd at Union Square across Powell Street waiting to catch a glimpse of the president at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco. She's packing a .38 caliber handgun she purchased that morning, and she doesn't know that her gun sight is misaligned by some 6 inches off the point of impact. She fires the gun one time and misses, injuring a taxi driver, John Ludwig, who, having a smoke between fares, is standing inside the hotel. Moore raises the pistol again to re-aim and take a second shot, but Oliver Sipple, a decorated U.S. Marine no longer on active duty, tackles her, perhaps saving the president's life. On this day in 1979, the Vela incident, also known as the South Atlantic Flash, is observed near Bouvet Island, thought to be a nuclear weapons test. Project Vela refers to a series of satellites launched by the United States to monitor compliance with the 1963 Atmospheric Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. On this day in 1979, an American Vela Hotel satellite detects a strong double flash, indicative of a nuclear explosion in the South Atlantic Ocean between South Africa and the Prince Edward Islands north of Antarctica. No corroborative evidence is ever found despite U.S. Air Force overflights by aircraft specifically outfitted to detect radioactive dust in the atmosphere. Aerospace engineers posit the possibility of an anomaly caused by the Vela Hotel being struck by a meteorite, or perhaps a misdirection caused by aging onboard detectors. The Vela satellites, launched in 1969, are already 2 years past their sell-by date. Another, more popular theory is that the flash is caused by a secret joint Israeli-South African nuclear weapons test. The previous 41 double flash indications detected by the Vela series all proved to be nuclear weapons tests originated. French-Algerian author Albert Camus writes, "The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion." From Rutland, Vermont, this is Richard Alcott speaking.